Welcome to the Mortification of Spin, a podcast of the Alliance of Confessing Evangelicals. And I am Todd Pruitt. I'm the pastor of Church of the Savior in Wayne, Pennsylvania, and I am, as always, joined by Carl Truman, who teaches church history at Westminster Seminary and is pastor of Cornerstone OPC in Ambler, Pennsylvania. Normally, I try to take some shots at Carl right now, belittle him in some way, make fun of his pedigree. But right now, I'm actually having some very warm feelings towards Carl because I found out right before we recorded this that his sons probably have more in common with my politics than they do with his. And so that made me feel good. I mean, while Carl's busy watching Rachel Maddow, apparently they are busy thinking rightly. And so, Carl, well done. I don't know what it took for you to raise sons that are more conservative.
I have no sons. I have no sons.
He just had to move to America. That was all.
That's right.
Raise them here.
So good on you, Carl, for that. And speaking, Dr. Stephen Nichols is also with us.
Who is research professor?
Yes, he is the
Christianity and Culture at Lancaster Bible College.
Exactly. And actually, Steve, you made mention of Carl raising his sons here in the United States, which is obviously much better than the alternative.
I tell you, I have no sons. I don't know what you're talking about.
And I do want to raise the question, Carl, of the status of your citizenship. Is there any chance of us putting in a bad word for you, perhaps getting you deported, or are you eventually going to bend the knee and become a citizen of the United States as Christopher Hitchens did?
Well, a couple of comments on that, Todd. First of all, I am here legally with a green card, which means I can be deported, I would imagine, at a moment's notice. Secondly, I don't need your patronage, brother. I already qualify for U.S. citizenship. My plan is to have a deathbed conversion. Clearly, I don't want to be associated with your country other than in terms of my salary between now and the moment of death. So I'm hoping to be able to take the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, which incidentally strikes me as an extremely bizarre thing to pledge allegiance to a flag.
Right.
I would hope to take the pledge just round about a minute and a half before I pass into the blue yonder. Simply, I would stress, as a tax dodge. Because
of course.
The tax, the death duties on legal aliens is twice that on citizens. And of course, I believe if you're an illegal alien, there's no death tax at all.
None at all.
Probably I just need to let my papers expire and remain here. And not
I would report you. So just want you to know that. I would turn you in a minute. But we are joined again by Dr. Stephen Nichols, again, someone that we like. So we've had him on here. And we like him because he writes good books, and he's a relatively nice fellow, and is not a nerd like a lot of professors probably are.
And he used to be, but since he's been hanging out with us guys, I've seen a dramatic improvement.
My cool quotient has just
it's gone through the roof.
How cool is the guy who introduced B.B. King to Derek Del Boy Thomas?
Thrill is gone away. You done me wrong, baby. We'll be sorry someday. Thrill is gone.
That's a good thing.
And I like how you worded that.
B.B. King's credibility shot through the roof in the Welsh Presbyterian world as a result of that.
I didn't introduce Derek to B.B. King. I'm glad you got that.
I believe his record sales in Merthyr Tydfil doubled overnight after he met with Derek Thomas.
Steve, that does bring up a good topic, though, because you've written a book on the blues.
The blues. Yes.
Talk about that.
Sure. Yeah, writing books on the blues. I mean,
that's pretty good.
I want to be a research professor at Lancaster Bible College.
Did they pay you for that?
They did.
You're working on the Gospel according to Star Trek at the moment. Is that what I heard?
Well, there are limits, but it was a way to sort of increase my CD collection and call it research. And so I just sit in my office, listen to blues music, and call it research.
Outstanding.
No, I did this little book called Getting the Blues, what blues music teaches us or can teach us.
You sure you wrote it, Steve? You seem really on the title there. I have a feeling it was Heidi that may have written that one. You just put your name on it.
Something about blues music, suffering, salvation, something. But no, I was down at in Jackson teaching back when Derek was still down there at the Reformed Seminary in Jackson. And just happened, providentially, the week I was there, B.B. King was back in town in Jackson.
I'll give it all one day, baby, like I know.
He asked to meet Derek Thomas.
He called, his people called. They wanted to know. If
They called your people
they
as
called my
research professor.
people.
presumably. Okay.
My son, who I think is here now. So we took Derek to this concert. Now, you know how these things work. There's always 3 or 4 acts before King comes out, right? So first acts were fine, but so when King finally came out, and he's good. He had his band, and it was good. And he's sitting in his chair, looks like a throne. He's throwing back lyrics.
This is King or Thomas we're talking about?
This is Derek.
Okay.
We're talking about
Derek Thomas throwing back
carries
lyrics.
his throne. So Derek leans over to me and he says, and this is at a blues concert, an exponential increase in quality. Now, I shouldn't do that because, Derek was such a good sport. This thing started like 8 o'clock and
You
it
can
ended
trash
at
Derek.
midnight.
We don't mind.
So, but he was a good sport. He loved it. I went up, of course, afterwards I went up and spent some time with King as much as I could. I think I helped him get onto the bus, By then, it was past Derek's bedtime, so he had to go home.
Well, I'm just heartened that Derek listened to some music that was other than Mahler or Wagner.
People don't give him enough credit.
Yeah.
The blues is miserable, and coming from Wales, you understand misery,
lived the blues.
believe me.
You
Derek will
live the
understand
blues in
misery.
Wales, correct?
Yes, yeah, but without the good tunes.
Steve, certainly not one of your major works, but it was one that caught my eye. I'm a subscriber to Table Talk magazine and saw that in the March issue they have an article by you. And I just want to give a disclaimer on behalf of Steve, because when I mentioned the article to Steve, he immediately explained it away. You said it was like something that was written down on a piece of paper that was stuck to the bottom of your shoe in a truck stop or something like that. And so you clearly were not impressed by your own article, which that's another topic.
Suitable false humility.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, I was impressed.
Just a little throwaway
Once
thing.
you can fake sincerity,
Exactly.
you're made.
It's just a little throwaway thing I did for R.C. Sproul's magazine. No big deal. R.C. has not called me to write anything for
that's
it,
Mr.
though.
Sproul to you, I think, Todd. So, bit of respect, please.
Right. Oh, yeah. Now, do you call him R.C.? Because I noticed that he has you out to his place in Florida quite a bit, Carl.
I've been out once. And,
Just once?
Yeah, and it was a result of his people speaking to my people.
Oh,
So
I see.
there
I
was
see.
no direct
Steve, have you been out to the Mecca in
I have
Florida?
4 times.
4 times.
I have to tell you a true story.
But we were there together.
I was there with
okay.
Steve, and
We were
I'll
there
tell you a
together.
true story. R.C. Sproul set up a book signing for the afternoon with myself and him. Steve's laughing. He knows this is true. So I'm sitting next to R.C. Sproul for this book signing. There is a line going all
Out
the
the
way
door.
to Tampa, out of the door, for R.C. Sproul to sign various books. There is nobody on my side. Till finally, this young guy walks up, and I'm thinking, wow, I made it. I'm a celebrity. I'm going to sign a book. And the guy says to me, you wouldn't happen to know Stephen Nichols' email address, would you? And I said, sure, give me a piece of paper. I'll write down, oh, and would you like my autograph as well? He said, oh, no need to bother.
Yeah. You were his administrative assistant or something like that, right?
So
Outstanding.
But we were there together, and we actually went running together.
we did.
And I had my pepper spray in case we encountered alligators.
It was out in case he attracted fans like
Sure,
yourself, just to clear them
Alligators,
away from
my eye. Yeah. That's what you call them now.
But I had Carl. No fans were coming near me with
Carl is human pepper spray.
They scattered when I appeared. Yeah. I do not look good in shorts. That's all I'll say.
Sure,
So,
that goes without saying. You're British, but
it was the black socks and the dress shoes that did it, I think.
man, all you have to do is bring up R.C. Sproul, and we've got all kinds of things to talk about. Although I do find it instructive, Carl, that he's had you once and he's had Steve 4 times. I don't know what that tells us, but
Yes,
we could speculate, but probably shouldn't. But Steve has this little article, and if you know anything about Table Talk magazine, they're small articles, but I subscribe to the magazine because it's good. And Steve, what I do like about the article is just titled Youth-Driven Culture, and you raise, I think, some very good questions and concerns about what you describe here as youth-driven culture. Quickly, how would you define that, and how do you see it in the church, this youth-driven culture?
I think you got it. The article was trying to look at how our culture is a youth-driven culture, and then how that spills into the church. So one of the places you start, of course, with is popular music,
right?
And the way we sort of idolize youth culture and pop music, and even the current super band Fun,
right,
has this. We are young.
Right.
We're going to set the world on fire. It's just a consistent theme. The old, growing up in the 70s and 80s, the old heavy metal ballads of...
I notice you do have some lyrics from Poison.
I do have...
Which was quite impressive.
That's probably the first time Poison lyrics ever made it into a table talk.
That's right. It may be the last time you ever write a table talk as well.
I think it's this idea of taking this symbol of strength and vigor, right, and saying that's what the ideal human is. It's sort of like captain of the football team, mm-hmm, captain of the cheerleading squad, and those are sort of what we idolize, right, in American culture. And then, of course, I think that spills into the church, and a number of things. One is, especially you look at Paul. Paul's constantly talking about our weakness, our frailty. And it's hard when we have these visions thrust upon us of beauty and youth and vigor and strength to recognize that we are frail. Ultimately, we are frail, right, people, and we need to be dependent. The other thing I think it does is there's a reason why the church should be multi-generational. The youth need to see the old need to be with the youth. We need to have children running around. Right. There's something to that variety that helps us be truly, I think, the body of Christ. So when we have a church that sort of follows suit of a youth-driven culture, I think we set up, number one, I think we set up the wrong sort of standards for what is to be human, right? Right. But then secondly, we sort of miss out on what is diversity. And, in other cultures, age is actually the privileged, right, over the youth, right? Right, and so we've sort of reversed that, haven't we? Yeah. So those are some of the things I was trying to touch on.
And is it not true that adolescence is a pretty recent category historically? Is it accurate to say at one time for the majority of human history you were a child and then you were an adult? But we've created this category of adolescence, and I get it, I understand it. I just wonder ultimately how helpful that is. In the church, one of the things that concerns me has been the rise, and I don't want to be legalistic, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but the rise of phenomena like children's church, and now we're even seeing the spread of youth services during alternative youth services during the gathered worship of God's people in the churches. And so it's conceivable to be raised in an evangelical church and never attend a corporate worship service with people that aren't your age until you get into college or past college. This is what I would call a dangerous development in the church.
I wonder how much of that is driven as well by a fear of losing young people. I mean, we all have an interest in young people staying in the church because today's young people and tomorrow's middle-aged people are future generations old people. Right. The church is going to die if it doesn't retain its young people, and a great fear that in order to retain the youth in the church, we need to compete with the world around. Yeah. We need to provide them with what they're getting in the world, but with a with a Christian gloss.
Wholesome.
Yeah,
Yes.
a wholesome version of,
Yes.
or sometimes these days not so wholesome,
Right,
to be
right.
honest, some of the things one sees.
Yeah.
I think that's a misguided policy because it really marries you to the spirit of the age.
Right.
And while I'm not a hardcore, the way you retain your youth is you beat the shorter catechism into them as soon as they're old enough to understand kind of guy, I think the old practice of catechesis and the practice of, in some ways, setting your ambitions lower, that Christianity is in a sense, and Christian discipline is something to which kids grow into.
Right.
I think we need to set our bar lower and revisit the old traditional methods,
Right.
even if we need to update them slightly. One thing we can't do is compete with the world around, because the world is always going to do that stuff better.
Right.
You only have to, you might laugh at this, but you only have to compare Christian rock with real rock to know that, in the words of, is it King of the Hill?
Yes.
You're not making Christianity better, you're making rock worse. Anybody who compares Stryper even to something like Coverdale Page, which was really rather an embarrassing period of Jimmy Page's career. But even to compare Stryper with Coverdale Page is better than Stryper.
Yeah.
So this idea that we can compete with the world around and win is a nonsense.
Yeah. Now, I will say Stryper had superior spandex, but that's a topic for another show, and maybe a topic for just a whole different program altogether.
I am glad that you finally got rid of the mullets, by the way, Todd. I'm sure your wife is much relieved.
The mullet has
I
a
have
proud
a little
tradition.
Stryper story if you'd like to hear.
I'd love to hear Stephen
here's
Nichols'
my
Stryper
Stryper
story.
story. Okay, I'll tell you my
I just
Stryper
before he
story.
says it, I just want to set the
As long as
stage
it
here.
shows him in a bad light.
The research, a
involves
research
Luther,
professor,
too.
a research
So you'll
professor from Lancaster Bible College is going to tell a Stryper story.
Okay, here you go.
This
Here's
is
my
good.
Stryper story. When I did this little Luther book, and I did along with it, I did a little thing on Luther's 95 Theses. And this was when the film came out.
Oh, okay, yes.
The Luther movie.
Right.
So I get a call from a radio station in Albuquerque, New Mexico, that wanted me on for some afternoon show, right? So I was supposed to be on for an hour on this show. I was going to be talking and call in about the movie mostly and Luther. So just before the time, I get a call from the producer and says, "Oh, we got a little change of plans. Stryper is in town tonight for a concert." So first I'm like, Stryper? I remember them from the 80s, I'm thinking, are these guys still on
Can you imagine
medication?
how desperate they must be for money?
Yeah, they ran out of money. That's the thing. Always brings groups back together.
So they say, and they've stopped by the studio, so we're only going to give you the first half of the show because we want to have Stryper then.
Who wouldn't want to have Stryper?
Who wouldn't want to have Stryper
That
bump
is
Luther?
shoved aside for Stryper. That is appalling.
So then it gets even better. About midway through, we're on a break, and producer comes on, and I'm hearing the commercials in the background. He goes, "Hey, this is going great, but I think what we're going to do is we're going to sort of segue. So we're going to bring you on with Stryper."
Because they have some things to say about Luther as well.
Because they're apparently church historians, and
Well, they're part of ancient history.
so he goes. So think of something you could say. And then you hear the 10, 9, 8, in the background. So I get on, and all I could think of was Luther played the lute.
Yeah.
Which is a precursor to the
played
guitar,
lead
of course.
lute.
Oh, you
Rhythm, rather than
The
rhythm
family
lutes.
band.
And they thought that was great. I don't know who they were.
They didn't know who Luther
Stryper
was, but they were
Jr.
glad he was a lute player, I'm sure.
And then I got off.
So you've met B.B. King and
Stryper.
Stryper.
No, see,
That
this
is
was
awesome.
in my home. I was in Lancaster. It was all phone.
so it was all,
They were in Albuquerque.
Yeah,
Did
so it was all
you ever do a
phoned
gig
in.
with Twisted Sister? Or?
Well, Dee Snider is on.
Now I'm trying to figure out. Well, you know what?
Back to the youth-driven culture. which
Youth-driven
apparently
culture. I
we
will
are.
say this: we had mentioned R.C. Sproul earlier. The lead singer who took Sammy Hagar's place in Van Halen.
Yes.
And he only did one album with him. I forget his name.
It was Eddie. Wasn't it Eddie Van Halen?
No,
He's
no,
the guitarist.
He's the guitarist. I'm saying they had a singer for one album after Sammy Hagar.
Is this
left.
relevant to youth-driven culture?
This is relevant to R.C.
I
Sproul.
thought it was one of the
His-
Van Halens that he knows.
No. His name is Gary something, and he was in another band, and he did one album with them. Okay,
And he knows RC.
he on the album credits, he thanks R.C. Sproul as one of the people that he thanks.
And then, of course, there's the Alice Cooper story.
Yes. Exactly.
That they were golfing.
Yes, exactly.
Together.
Yeah. So RC gets around. He's kind of a big player in arena rock.
Of course, you realise that for any of our listeners born after about 1980, the terms Stryper and Van Halen, you'll need to look them up on Wikipedia.
True.
I think.
True.
So.
Yeah. So
I'm just wondering, is it my presence that has brought this conversation?
No, this is exalted compared to where it has depth.
Exactly. Yeah, there's been no uses of profanity so far,
yeah.
Stephen. I think it's because your son is
My son is in the room.
Todd's kept his muscle shirt on as well.
That's right. I have not gone shirtless yet, and for that we can all be thankful.
That's why we're on radio.
That's right. That's right.
It's a face for radio.
Do you think that's try to get us back on track here?
Please.
Technology. It strikes me that technology...
I'm against it, mostly.
Well, I don't like it either, particularly. But it strikes me that technology is a medium that, by and large, favours the young. And one of the concerning things to me is the way that some... Well, first of all, there's the democratization of knowledge that's taken place on the internet, where anybody can say anything, and you don't know if they're a reliable source or not. The other side of it is, it's by and large a lot of young guys. And having great influence now in the church, writing on certain websites, not ordained, not accountable to anybody, standing outside of what I would consider to be the New Testament biblical structure for accountability. Young guys with tremendous influence. Young guys who are accountable effectively to no one. That would seem to me to be part of the youth culture of the church at this time that's problematic. And throw into the mix, something like Twitter. Twitter is a medium that is not conducive to subtle thought.
Right.
It's almost not conducive to thought at all.
Sure.
But there are some who can use Twitter better than others, I'm sure. But the whole way the church is being driven by internet stuff strikes me as intimately connected to a youth bias and also to a bias against thoughtful engagement with God's word and really thoughtful engagement with the wider culture.
Yeah.
Carl, I think this is something that I think you're very helpful for in a prophetic voice to the church. We have sort of lost this idea, and it's a theme that is very much prominent, I think, in what your writings, but your blogosphere writings, but we have... we don't see the church gathered, and I think part of it is the variety of the church worshiping together as the sole source and means of my spiritual nourishment, or the primary significance
primary source
of my spiritual significance. The word preached and sitting under the preaching of the word in a pew with a family as. There's something to that, and there's something that, well, it's been part of American evangelicalism that has almost been averse to that and has set up all these substitutes. And in many ways, the technology enhances the ability to do that and the accessibility to make that more prominent in someone's life than a church. And I think that's one of your it's a prominent theme of yours, but I think is a very helpful theme for the church. As a prophetic call to ask what really drives us and what do we need as a people of God.
Would you see a connection between our overemphasis or unhealthy emphasis on individualism and youth-driven culture? In other words, kind of an anti-authoritarian, anti-structure of authority where there are offices given to the church. We have, not only young people, but their parents who particularly in general evangelicalism. You'll find this less, of course, in the OPC, but out in some large denominations as well as in non-denominational churches, there is a lot of ignorance about what Christ has given to the church by way of offices of ministry and the authority that comes from that. And so we're raising generations of young people in the church that leave the church unchurched.
This is really interesting you talk about this, because I think I see this sometimes. We have a little bit different audiences because I'm at a college, Carl's in a seminary, so I'm more in the 18 to 22-year-old sort of world. And there very much is a sort of peer sense. And I try to challenge my students on that sometimes in terms of that's not community, of course, is the buzzword. So they sort of talk about community, when the New Testament word is really church.
Right.
It's community within the church, but it's church, not 4 or 5 peers sitting around talking. They find that more spiritually beneficial than their going to church on a Sunday morning. Right. And I think that's problematic. Yes. I think that's something that we need to say we're sort of missing the point here. Right. And, in addition to church offices, and this probably gets us off track onto a whole other topic here, but sacraments. Right. And to think about the word as a sacrament, the preaching of the word as a sacrament, that's sort of lost language, especially in the world I inhabit, the broader evangelical world.
And the world I inhabit as well. To have to explain to people who are active members of a church that sitting under the preached word, as you referenced earlier, partaking of bread and cup and receiving the word as the primary means by which God forms his people and grows us and disciples us, that's not heard of very much in the broader evangelical world. It's as if disciple making happens in another context, and certainly there are other contexts, but the primacy of the gathered worship of God's people under the authority of the Word, receiving the means of grace that God, the Lord Jesus, has given us, is almost seen as passé or even non-essential.
I think it's seen as too boring by a lot of people as well. We live in a world where people like spectacular stuff. They like things instantly. Right. They like change. They like flux. The vision of the Christian life that is found in Scripture and the vision of the Christian life that I think has been found throughout much of church history has been a much more routine and, dare one say it, boring thing.
Right. The ordinary.
The ordinary. And we don't expect spectacular fireworks every Sunday. Right. We go, we hear the preaching of the word. Maybe it's done well, maybe it's done indifferently. But we sit under it week by week. We take the Lord's Supper and we grow in our faith together as a body of believers. We want quick fixes. We want that technique which will get us from here to there quickly these days. The Christian life is a discipline. It's a routine. And I think we have to lower our bar and lower our expectations of what the Christian life looks like and how we get to where we need to be as Christians.
Do you think I totally agree with what you're saying, but I think there's a bit of an irony there because it seems like a lot of the interest people are in is so trivial compared to the eternal heavy glory matters that are in Scripture. And we have this culture, youth-driven culture, that is so fascinated by the trivial.
Right. Take day after Super Bowl. How many people the day after the Super Bowl spent their time talking about the word they'd heard preached on Sunday? And how many spent their time talking about the great commercials of the halftime show?
It's the evangelical preoccupation with the sensational. And you just look at the Christian bestseller list and grieve. And so if I can read about somebody's fanciful trip to heaven, and this time really now I really believe in heaven, that describes a lot of what is wrong with contemporary evangelicalism. It's not the ordinary means that God has given us to draw our faith. If I can be inspired by that person's trip to heaven, or this person goes out into the woods and has Jesus dictate a book to them, that's what I want, rather than the ordinary but beautiful means that God has given to his people.
Well, thanks very much for joining us, Steve.
My pleasure.
Yes,
thanks for having me.
Entertaining having you. This has been The Mortification of Spin, a podcast of the Alliance of Confessing Evangelicals. Please visit our website at alliancenet.org and the website of the podcast as well, which you'll find linked from there. If you're young, good-looking, with a bright outlook on life, we do apologize for the disillusionment you will have experienced during this show, but this is a show by the bald, bitter and middle-aged for the bald, bitter and middle-aged. Look forward to seeing you next time.
So set the world on fire. time the bar closes and you feel like falling down, I'll carry you home tonight.